and soft amber lights made strangers feel like old friends. Emily Parker, a 22-year-old server with tired eyes but a hopeful heart, wiped down the tables with slow, deliberate movements. Her shoes pinched, her back ached, and her stomach rumbled, a reminder she'd skipped lunch again, but she kept working with the same gentle smile she offered every customer. Struggles had become her silent shadow ever since her mother fell ill and medical bills swallowed the little she earned. Still, she whispered to herself, just a little more. We'll get through this. She didn't know it yet, but this night would change more than just her shift, it would change lives. The bell at the door chimed, and in walked a tall man in an expensive navy blue suit. His watch glimmered like a tiny sun under the lights, and his cologne spread through the room before he even reached the host stand. This was Gregory Langston, one of the wealthiest, and most feared, real estate developers in the state. People said he could turn forests into fortunes and families into dust if they stood in the way of his plans. His reputation entered a room long before he did, and tonight was no different. Behind him trailed two associates, both dressed sharply, both wearing the nervous smiles of people used to obeying every word he barked. Gregory chose a corner table as if he owned the place and sat with the confidence of someone who believed the world revolved around him. Emily approached with her notepad, offering the warm smile she gave everyone. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Willow Creek Lodge. What can I get started for you tonight?" Gregory barely glanced at her. "Water, room temperature, and make sure the lemon is organic. The last time I came here, the service was cheap and sloppy. I expect better tonight." Emily swallowed the sting. "Of course, sir. I'll be right back." She hurried to the kitchen, trying to keep her hands steady. She needed the tips tonight. Her mother's newest prescription cost more than her weekly groceries. She returned with the water, placing it gently before him. But when he lifted the glass, his brow tightened. "This lemon isn't organic," he declared loudly, as if announcing a crime. "Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I wouldn't know?" Emily froze, heart sinking. "Sir, it is organic. We always—" He cut her off with a wave of his hand. "Save your excuses. What kind of establishment hires servers who can't follow basic instructions? You people are all the same, lazy and careless." Her cheeks flushed. She wasn't used to cruelty delivered so casually, and for a moment words failed her. She wanted to explain, to defend herself, but her throat tightened. This wasn't the first time someone mistook her gentleness for weakness. She stepped back, blinking away the sting in her eyes. At the nearby table, a quiet man looked up. He was in his late 40s, broad-shouldered and calm, with the rugged posture of someone who'd carried more weight in life than most people ever would. His hair was gray at the temples, his jaw square, his eyes steady and observant. On the floor beside him, resting patiently, was a German shepherd with a scar across its left ear. The dog's amber eyes tracked the room with silent intelligence. The man was Jack Turner, a retired Navy SEAL who had spent much of his life serving others, often in ways the world would never hear about. But now he lived simply, quietly, trying to piece together civilian life after years of chaos. His dog, Ranger, was more than a companion, he was a partner forged in battle and loyalty. Jack had been quietly eating a bowl of chili when he heard the businessman's insults. He watched Emily retreat toward the kitchen, shoulders trembling slightly, and something stirred in him. He recognized that posture. He'd seen it on young soldiers overwhelmed by pressure, on civilians caught between hardship and hope. That invisible breaking point where a person kept going not because life was easy, but because they refused to give up. He felt the familiar tug of responsibility, the instinct to step in. But he waited. Ranger, sensing the shift in Jack's breathing, raised his head and gently nudged Jack's thigh. Jack whispered, "Easy, buddy." "Not yet." Across the room, Gregory continued his tirade, now complaining about the lighting, the chairs, the music, anything that crossed his line of sight. His associates nodded obediently, though their eyes darted uncomfortably around the room. When Emily brought his entree, a perfectly cooked prime rib, Gregory leaned back, sniffed the plate, and scoffed. "You can't be serious. This is burnt. Are you deliberately trying to ruin my evening? Do you know who I am?" Emily's voice wavered. "I'm really sorry, sir. I can bring you another." He slammed his fist on the table, making nearby customers jump. "You're sorry. You should be. You're a disgrace to service workers everywhere. If you can't get a simple order right, you should find another job, preferably one where you don't ruin people's nights with your incompetence." Her eyes glistened. She stepped back, suddenly dizzy. She had handled rude customers before, but something about his contempt pierced deeper than the usual insults. Maybe it was because she was exhausted, or because she'd been holding everything together for too long. She turned slightly so he wouldn't see the tears forming. That was Jack's breaking point. He rose slowly, wiping his mouth with a napkin, and Ranger stood beside him, alert and ready. Jack approached the corner table with steady, measured steps, steps of a man who didn't need to raise his voice to command a room. "Sir," Jack said calmly. "That's enough." Gregory turned, surprised that someone dared interrupt him. "Excuse me, do I know you?" "No," Jack replied, "and you don't need to. But I've been sitting here listening to you insult that young woman for the last 15 minutes. And frankly, it ends now." Gregory laughed, amused. "Are you her father? Her boyfriend? What business is it of yours?" Jack's expression didn't change. "It's everybody's business when someone's being mistreated. She's doing her job, and you're talking to her like she's beneath you. That's not how decent people act." Gregory's jaw clenched. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "I don't care who you are," Jack said. "People matter more than power." The room fell silent. Other customers watched with bated breath. Gregory scoffed again, waving a dismissive hand. "Move along, hero. No one asked for your opinion." Jack's stare hardened. "I wasn't giving an opinion. I was giving you a chance to stop." Ranger stepped slightly forward, not threatening, but protective. The sight of the muscular dog made Gregory lean back instinctively. "What? You gonna sick your mud on me?" Gregory snapped, though his voice wavered. Jack knelt beside Ranger and gently scratched behind his ear. "This is Ranger. He's saved more lives than you've likely ever cared about. And he's trained to know when someone's dangerous. Lucky for you, he hasn't sensed that in you yet." Gregory swallowed, shifting uncomfortably. Jack straightened. "Now, you're going to apologize to her." Gregory laughed sharply. "Apologize? To a server? Absolutely not." Jack stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough for Gregory to hear but loud enough for the room to feel the weight of his words. "Let me tell you something about people like her. People who work hard every day without recognition, who push through exhaustion just to keep their families going. They're the backbone of this country. You're just loud." For the first time that evening, Gregory's confidence faltered. Jack continued, "Men like me spent years fighting for a nation built on dignity and respect. And we didn't do it so people like you could walk around acting like gods." Gregory opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Emily approached timidly. "It's okay, sir," she whispered to Jack. "Please, I don't want any trouble." Jack turned to her, his gaze softening. "Trouble's already here. I'm just cleaning it up." Then something unexpected happened. Ranger walked up to Emily and nudged her hand gently, as if offering comfort. Emily gasped softly, placing a trembling hand on the dog's head. Ranger leaned into her touch, and for the first time that night, she felt warmth replace the tightness in her chest. Gregory, feeling the room turn against him, attempted to regain his composure. "This is ridiculous. I don't have to stand here and be lectured by some washed-up soldier." Jack didn't flinch. "Retired, not washed up. And unlike you, I've earned my peace." He turned to the restaurant. "Everyone, this young woman is doing her job with honesty and hard work. That deserves respect." The customers murmured in agreement. One older woman clapped softly. A young couple nodded. Even Gregory's own associates shifted guiltily. Then Jack did something no one expected. He reached into his wallet, pulled out several bills, and set them gently in Emily's hand. It was more than a generous tip. It was nearly a week's worth of wages. "This is for your mother," he said quietly. "You mentioned the hospital bills last week when you served me." "I didn't forget." Emily's eyes widened in shock. "But, how did you?" "I listen," Jack replied. "To people who deserve to be heard." She burst into tears, covering her mouth with her hand. Ranger nudged closer, leaning gently against her leg. Gregory watched, stunned into silence. Then Jack turned back to him. "Now, your turn." Gregory stared at Emily, then at the room full of judgmental eyes, and at the dog whose calm stare made him feel small in a way he'd never experienced. Finally, his shoulders sank. "I apologize," he muttered. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Try again. Like you mean it." Gregory swallowed. "I apologize, miss. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way." Emily wiped her tears. "Thank you," she whispered, though her voice carried a mixture of forgiveness and quiet strength. Gregory, shaken and embarrassed, stood abruptly. "We're leaving," he told his associates and stormed toward the exit. For the first time in years, someone had held a mirror up to his face, and he didn't like what he saw. After he left, the restaurant exhaled as though a storm had passed. Emily hugged Jack, overwhelmed. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Jack said gently. "Just remember you're worth more than how people like him try to make you feel." Ranger barked softly, tail wagging. Jack smiled. "Ranger agrees." As Emily laughed through her tears, customers approached, offering kind words, additional tips, and encouragement. The manager thanked Jack personally, offering him and Ranger free meals for as long as they wished. Later that night, after everyone had left and the restaurant was finally quiet, Emily sat alone at a corner booth, examining the money Jack had given her. She knew it wasn't just cash, it was hope. Hope she hadn't felt in a long time. The kind that reminded her that strangers could still be kind, that courage could come from unexpected places, and that even in the darkest moments, there were people willing to stand up for what was right. Across the parking lot, Jack slipped into his truck with Ranger, giving the loyal dog a gentle pat. "Good job today, buddy." Ranger let out a soft, satisfied huff. Jack looked back at the warm light glowing from the restaurant windows. "People think heroes wear capes," he murmured. "But sometimes, it's the quiet ones carrying the heaviest loads." He started the engine, the faint hum blending with the night's stillness. As he drove away, he hoped Gregory Langston had learned something too, not just about humility, but about humanity. And maybe, just maybe, the world was still capable of kindness. Emily watched his truck disappear down the road. Her heart felt lighter, her world a little brighter. And though she didn't know what tomorrow would bring, she carried a new belief inside her. Compassion could turn strangers into protectors, generosity could bring light to the darkest struggles, and sometimes the simplest act of standing up for someone could change a life forever. The night ended not with exhaustion, but with gratitude. And the story that began with cruelty ended with courage, proof that kindness, no matter how small, can ripple across lives in ways neither Emily nor Jack could ever forget.